Hello everyone, my name is Reese-c-clear. I am a student tasked with creating a topic to turn in for homework, but it has to be a good topic, so I've chosen one that goes with my heart. So without further ado, today we are going to talk about recidivism. Recidivism is the act of a person repeating an undesirable behavior after they have experienced negative consequences of that behavior. It is also used to refer to the percentage of former prisoners who are rearrested for a similar offense. Recidivism. Now, here's some facts. According to the April report by Pew Center, it's called Pew Center, and they make reports on the states. So let's get that out in one piece so that you know what I'm speaking of. So according to a report that they did in April, the average national recidivism rate for released prisoners is 43%. So nationally, it's 43%. According to the National Institute of Justice, almost 47% of the recently released return before the end of their first year out. So one study, 43% are coming home, 43% are being released. An even bigger number than that is 47% are going back before they're out of their first year. Already there should be a problem with the math there. The math, this is not sound. How is there a bigger percentage of people going back than there are people who are getting out? Stick that one in your hats for a second. A cost study performed by the Vera Institute of Justice, a non-profit committed to the decarceration in the United States, found that the average per inmate cost of incarceration among the 40 states surveyed was $31,286 per year. There's another number, $31,286 per year is how much it costs to house an inmate. Now you've got the penal institution in the United States is just out of control, honestly. I mean, there's so many people going to jail. So now we see that the numbers are showing that they're getting paid. And half of the penitentiaries in the 50 states are federalized prisons, which are privately owned, some of them. And then there's the state side. You're in prison in stateside, or stateside is the prison that is near you. That prison is taxpayers' dollars. So the taxpayer is paying, let's quote that again, $31,286 per year for each inmate if they're a stateside prison. Got to be something wrong with that number. Got to be something wrong with it. If you have a heart, it's something wrong with it. If you have a heart like I do, it's something wrong with it. If you're a taxpayer looking at this message, there's something wrong with that. The state is literally paying $31,286 per year. Some of these stateside penitentiaries house upwards of 2,500 inmates at a time, and that's stateside. I mean, federal penitentiaries can house sometimes even more stateside. So you just do the math there. If a prison's capacity is 2,400 individuals, and that's times $31,286, just, man, it is a massive amount of money for the taxpayers. On the federal side, of course, they love it. They love it. They're raking in the taxpayers' dollars for the people that they're housing to be locked up. In the United States, it has been proven it is the disproportionate amount of African Americans who are in prison compared to other races. Melanated races are also impacted by the same sort of stigmatism, the same sort of racism, pretty much. But racism isn't the topic here because that's just a small drop in the bucket. Racism is still alive, of course, so I would be a fool not to say that it is, but I'm telling you from one who just doesn't give racism any credit because it's stupidity, period. So if you know anyone that is racist, then read them their rights. Let them know it makes no sense at all to be racist. You're missing out on the greater picture, for the man upstairs loves us all. However, this system that was created with pretty much racism was a part of it. There's a lot of laws that are being discovered right now today that only exist to, in such a way, go after the minority races, especially African Americans. So I'm sorry as a human being that is the state of the world at the moment. When you know a thing, you are better at a thing. If you're African American looking at this, if it's melanin in your blood and you're looking at this, any type of way, I say to you that you need to avoid recidivism, meaning your way. If you've been in prison, don't go back. If you've never been in prison, then be aware of the traps and things and systematic things that are in place that come back from old time from the beginning of the government that were designed just to get you locked up. Now that you know that those traps are there, you can avoid them, my brother, avoid them, my sister. If you're of some other race, then of course by no way is it your fault, the state of the government that it is right now, because I believe that all men are created equal, as our Constitution says, although not all men are treated fairly, as we can see as well. So this isn't not have anything to do with you as well. The people who made the law and the system are long since dead. So now we have a task to attack the problem at hand, which means better laws, better things like that, which we'll get to, stick a fork in that. That's just the way that the system is at the moment, how they're just locking people up. Not just locking them up, it just seems to be locking them up at some point in time was the easiest thing to do. It was the only thing thought of, and then locking them up for a very long period of time was also the only thing thought of. Very strict laws and things like that are in play, but they're lucky for us, there are new waves of politicians and people being elected all of the time who feel differently about that and may do something to change it. May even be one in your area. As of 2023, recidivism rates in Illinois is 38.5%. This is Illinois. It is a state, which means that penitentiaries here and the incarcerated people here are incarcerated within our state, and there's a lot of them up and down, especially some of the southern states. So you do the math, hundreds of thousands, millions of bucks is just being bled into the penitentiary system and into the incarceration system because people who are incarcerated are cost. It costs to be incarcerated. So that is the flip side to what is going on there. So here in Illinois, 38.5% of those who are recently released go back. If you've been watching, you guessed it, there is the issue that I believe that a lot more light needs to be shined on it. Recidivism, not just the fact that people are in prison and incarcerated, we need to do something about the laws that exist that keeps people in prison, especially for non-violent offenders and people who could probably get some other form of punishment, for lack of a better word, punishment, or for the things that they do, or some people need help, some people need rehabilitation. There's a lot of crime that is committed because people have habits and things like that. So there should be other things and other systems in place to attack that problem. And also the mind. You must change your mind, change your thinking, change your life. So my argument about recidivism and the side I take on it is you got to change your thinking to change your life. Not just any positive thinking either. Not just any, but specifically I say you call on Jesus Christ, call on the Lord. Now this may seem as though I'm getting churchy with you, but believe me, I'm not. I'm speaking from experience that Jesus Christ is God, and I want you to know that I'm not ashamed of that. Turn away from the channel if you can't stand that Jesus is Lord, but you will find out the truth the same way that I did, so you might as well stay and get the information and see what I have for you here, and that's the truth of it. I believe that changing your thinking requires you to call specifically on Jesus Christ, that is God. You got to get through the change in your lifestyles. You got to recognize that there are those that think very little of faith around you. They're not going to be any help towards you when it comes down to changing your thinking and changing your life. They won't have a faith-based ideas. They won't have faith in the whole process of changing your life.